RISC-V is considered to be the future of computing, but are we there yet? We have ARM architecture being used for mobile phones, Raspberry Pis, then Apple adopted it for their MacBooks and iPads and pretty much beating x86 architecture in terms of power consumption and performance. Now to use ARM instruction sets, companies have to pay a licensing fee, but in contrast, RISC-V, which is an open source instruction set architecture, companies can use this architecture to design chips without paying any licensing fees. Now SpacemiT sent me this MUSE Pi Pro whose K1 chip is packaged into this M1 chip, is based on RISC-V architecture, and I wanted to see how this one performs. Now just as a disclaimer, SpacemiT did send me this device for free, and also the video is not sponsored by them, and the opinion that I'm giving in this video is my own, and SpacemiT is also seeing this video for the first time as you do. Now with this aside, let's look at this device in more detail. This MUSE Pi Pro comes with a RISC-V M1 chip that packages the K1 SoC to provide better thermal performance. It has an octa-core 64-bit RISC-V processor at 1.6 GHz with 2 TOPS of AI computing power. It has an LPDDR4X RAM with 2400 megatransfers per second. Then we have this eMMC 5.1 module, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, 2 MIPI CSI connector for cameras, 1 MIPI DSI connector for display supporting 1080p. It also has an M.2 M key connector for 2230 NVMe's with PCI Express Gen 2 speeds with 2-lane connectivity. And then we have is this mini PCI slot that provides Gen 2 speeds with 1-lane connectivity. Now in terms of ports, we have a USB-C port supporting PD power supply, 3.5mm audio jack, HDMI 1.4 supporting 1080p at 60 frames per second. Then we have these 4 USB 3.0 ports and an RJ45 Ethernet port supporting 1 gigabit per second. Now this device came to me already pre-assembled, so to show the barebone board I disassembled it, and while I was doing that I forgot to press the record button on the camera. So I had this thermal pad which partially came out while I was removing the heatsink that was covering the CPU and the memory module. Now this is how the heatsink fits on it, and then comes this acrylic plate with this fan attached to it that goes on top of the heatsink. Now for the rest of the test, I'm not going to have this top acrylic plate and connect the fan to the GPIO pins to power the fan. When I started the device, it automatically booted up to set up the Bianbu Star OS. In terms of OS, we have this Bianbu OS which is optimized for RISC-V and is built on top of Ubuntu community sources, while Bianbu Star is built on top of Bianbu OS that is much more optimized for user interaction and has wider support for RISC-V applications. We also have Fedora OS available for this board, but I was excited to see this Debian image available for this device. I flashed the Debian image and booted the device, but it took quite a long time to just get to the setup screen. It was the latest Trixie version, but launching an application like Chrome was painfully slow. It looked like it was not optimized, so I decided to go with Bianbu Star 3.0 beta version as it started up quickly and it was based on the latest Ubuntu Plugkit 25.04 version. So I decided to use this for my tests. When I opened Chrome and tried searching something on it, it said that it was pretty old even after I tried updating it. I searched a bit to see this post from Reddit where Firefox is available. So I installed it, which worked well, but it did not use the Harware Acceleration for video decoding. However, Chromium did use hardware video decoding, so I went ahead with testing a YouTube video performance with Chromium. For 1080p, the video worked well with a few frames dropped, but when I switched to 4K, the frames kept dropping, making the video playback quite choppy. Next, I ran GL Mark II test, and after building GL Mark II for Wayland, I was able to run the test, which gave me a score of 499. I also then compiled and ran VK Mark test to check Vulkan support, and it gave me a score of 650. I was a bit surprised that OpenGL and Vulkan were supported, so that was a good sign as to how far the development has come to. Next, at idle, the temperature was about 40 degrees Celsius without the fan connected to it, but when I stress tested it for about 5 minutes, the temperatures went to about 52 degrees Celsius with the heatsink and without the fan connected to it, which was pretty good. When I connected the fan, the idle temperatures went down to 33 degrees Celsius, and on stress testing it for about 5 minutes, the temperatures didn't go above 42 degrees Celsius, which was pretty good in terms of thermal performance. Even though the temperatures were acceptable to run this board without a fan, I still used the fan for the next set of tests. Firstly, I ran Sysbench test to calculate prime numbers up to 20,000 for every 100,000 requests, and this board completed the task in about 38 seconds, processing nearly about 2600 requests per second, which now in comparison to the Raspberry Pi 4 performed slightly lower. Then I ran the memory bandwidth test, which gave me speeds of about 2300 megabytes per second for mem copy, while for block copy of 1 kilobyte, it gave me speeds of about 6300 megabytes per second. Now this was in line with the Raspberry Pi 4 in terms of mem copy, but far better than the Raspberry Pi 5 in terms of block copy. I also ran the tiny membench test, and this gave me slightly different results, wherein the MUSE Pi Pro was better than the Raspberry Pi 4 in certain areas but still lagging behind the Raspberry Pi 5. Then I ran the Geekbench test using the build for RISC-V architecture, which gave me pretty low results in comparison to the Raspberry Pi 4. Now in all these tests, I have compared ARM boards with this RISC-V board, which are different architectures and may not be a fair comparison here. Like if we compare ARM SBCs with x86 mini PCs, the mini PCs do perform better. So just keep this in mind when you're evaluating these comparison results. Next, I tested the Ethernet port with iPerf3 test, which gave me around 935 megabits per second for sending and receiving data. I also checked the Wi-Fi 6 performance, and it gave me about 820 megabits per second transfer speeds. Next, I checked the power consumption, and at idle it was consuming about 3.3 watts of energy without the fan connected to the board, and I also noticed it was using 12 volts from the PD power supply rather than 5 volts. During the multi-core performance phase of the Geekbench test, the energy consumption did go up to 8.5 watts of energy. I checked the NVMe speeds, and I got speeds of about 566 megabytes per second, which is in line with Gen 2 speeds with 2-lane connectivity. Next, I tested the USB 3.0 ports by connecting a USB 3 to NVMe adapter, and I see that it was mounted on the 5000 megabit bus, indicating USB 3.0 speeds. I then ran a flexible I/O test to check the transfer speeds. It did show write speeds of about 361 megabytes per second, copying 21 GBs in 60 seconds, which is in line with the USB 3.0 speeds. Next, I wanted to check the UEFI support, and for that I had to flash the special firmware via the tool provided by SpacemiT. I tried that and it failed, but I could not figure out what I was doing wrong. Okay, a quick update. SpacemiT replied to me about the error, and it was a wrong file that I used to flash the eMMC. I had to use a zip file and not the image file, and then the tool flashed the firmware successfully. I then pressed F2 on boot up, and I was able to access the UEFI interface. Now this UEFI firmware is created using EDK2 and has a few basic options for booting from volume and booting from files. So the problem was not with the tool or the firmware, it was between the keyboard and the chair. So with this, let's continue with the video. Overall, RISC-V boards have not reached the performance levels of what ARM boards have reached over time. This is usually because of the open source nature, but after testing this board, I feel we are getting closer to what ARM SBCs are providing, and it's just a matter of time. SpacemiT is planning to launch their next version of this, that is the K3 chip, this year end, and I will be making a video about it, so subscribe to the channel to see that video when it is out. Now, if you like to see such videos, make sure to hit that like button as well as hit that subscribe button for more such videos to come. Now, you can support this channel via Patreon, or you can just buy me a coffee. Till then, I will see you in my next one.